What is a challenge that you feel is affecting you or those around your age?
Probably a feeling of not doing enough at my age. I feel like there's a lot of people doing so much, and I feel like I'm not doing enough.
Do you ever feel like everyone else is doing way better than you are? They have success at school. They're great athletes. They get scholarships. They all get great job opportunities, and you're stuck wondering what you're going to do next, or they're socially popular. So how do you build the confidence that you need to move forward in your life? We're going to talk about this. It's one of our building blocks for life. You're going to learn not only how to build your own confidence, but how to own your own unique identity and why that's so important right now to be who you are. This is all part of our 6 building blocks for life, and you can learn more about them at bbgtv.org. Thanks for being here, and on with the show.
Hi, I'm Saba. I'm an intern at Bounce Back Generation. We are a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to curating and sharing tools to help build resilience to the stressful times we live in. Today I'll be interviewing Emily. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Emily. I'm 19 years old. I'm in my second year of college, and I'm a graphic design student.
Nice. How do you like your major?
So far, it's pretty good. I like it.
Besides school, do you work anything?
Yeah, I have an on-campus job. I'm a student representative at the financial aid office.
Okay. And do you like your job?
Yeah, it's really chill.
And then outside of school and work, what does your social life look like?
Sometimes I hang out with my friends or my family. I feel like there's a lot of people doing so much, and I feel like I'm not doing enough.
What do you think that stems from?
Probably just like being in college and seeing other students and how like they're achieving so much, scholarships, internships, and I haven't got to that level yet. I need to do this and that, and like, why am I not getting there? And it can be really stressful sometimes.
Yeah, that's totally understandable.
Yeah, thank you.
What could be some factors that you think are making it hard to overcome this feeling, this challenge that you're going through right now?
Personally, I am a little bit shy, so it can be a little bit hard to reach out. And if I actually went ahead and reached out and wasn't too shy, I think I probably would have a better chance. Overall, I think just feeling super shy and not knowing where to go.
Is this your first job?
Yes.
It's your first job. Do you think it's helped you come out of your shell just a little bit?
Oh, definitely. I never thought, if you were to ask my high school self, I don't think I've ever would have thought I'll be in the position I am today.
So I'm hearing her struggle with maybe comparison, opportunity, trying to find your way, trying to maybe overcome a shyness, which could very closely relate to our confidence building block. And it's kind of at a pivotal time where you naturally take a lot more on in life, and there's a lot to figure out. And it feels like maybe looking around, everybody else has it figured out, and maybe you won't. What do you hear her asking or hear her saying?
Well, I put things into categories because there's really 3 main things that I think are part of this resilience building process. And, first is managing your nervous system so that you're not anxious all the time or depressed all the time, understanding how your body works. Secondly, is what you talked about, these building blocks that you can have in your life so you can be more resilient. And confidence building is one of them. And we should definitely talk about building confidence. The third one is identity. How do you build a sense of yourself? And that's very hard as you're growing up. And we think it's just organic, like, oh, I'm just me and I'm going to be me and everything's going to be okay. But you really do have an opportunity to build it. I think Emily's talking about how does she find herself, her true self. And is it okay to be shy? I think it is. I don't think she has to be out there and outgoing, but I feel like at this point, she's recognizing it's part of her identity that she wants to change so that she can do more of the things that she wants to do. But there's also that issue of peer pressure. Is she looking at everybody else and saying, how come I'm not as good at blank as they are? Why don't I get the good grades and the scholarships and the, opportunities to do, this, that, and the other. And so I think those are the issues that we're going to talk about. It's really confidence building, identity, and self-acceptance. Because I think she's lovely as she is. And, the world needs kind of those kinds of people. out there. Like when I was getting up towards 30, I always thought I'm going to be like a millionaire by the time I'm 30. That was like the thing, because I grew up in the 80s and everybody was like, we're all going to do international business and be, millionaires. It's so stupid. And then very quickly realized that's not me. That was some friends that I was hanging out with at the time. That wanted to do business and travel around the world, and wear high heels and all that stuff. And it took me a while to realize that, no, that's not me.
I don't know if this is the exact term, but the survivor bias, where like you see all these successful businesses, or you see all these successful people in your class, or whoever, but you see them because they're successful, and you don't see all the other people that failed. It just makes no sense. It's kind of like social media. You see everybody posting their best life, their best thing. No one's posting all the failures that it takes to get there. And even for the people that are succeeding that aren't posting the failures, you're not seeing the 90% of people that are trying to, but it just never surfaces because it's just not working, or they've had to refigure out what to do.
Yeah, but I would even challenge the word failure. I don't see failure as failure. I think it's really important, if you're going to be resilient, to look at not getting to the goal as an opportunity to learn. And this, like, how many years have I been working on bounce back generation, right? And it's like it doesn't quite get there. It doesn't do all the things I want it to do, but everything is a learning opportunity. So you get better and you hone it and you hone it. But I think the other thing is that you keep testing yourself. Is this really who I am? And is this really what I want to do? And so I think, like in college, you can, like, if you fail a class, the question is not, are you a failure, but is this really right for me? Is this a sign that I need to do something different?
And I think it can also be very helpful to well, for me, when I use the term failure, it's not I'm a failure. It's this thing that I was trying to do failed. And it's like you fail a class, or like this pilot program for a business, it fails. Or like even with my wife or kids, like, this argument, I failed here. Or like today I kind of failed, but not to take that as I'm a failure, but to kind of,
Why'd you fail today? No, explain that.
oh, I was telling you before this call, like I made this table for my kids and they were fighting over it. So I took away the table. And I wouldn't say that was a failure or a success, but if I was to deep dive on myself on it, there were parts where that could have been better and parts that were pretty good and I should probably follow closer to. And so when I look at my life that, I can look at where's the specific failure at? Not like that I fail at the goal, because it's probably way too early to tell if I failed at that goal. Okay, I can accept that this didn't go the way I wanted it to go, or I might not be where I want to be, but I can also accept that I can also there's a word that you use, and it'll come to your mind, but there's like a sense of empowerment or autonomy or control that you have once you kind of specify where it is. Like you can actually put your energy to get you closer to where you want.
Agency. That's the word I use. So your agency to me means that you are the agent of your life. Like you do something and you get a result. You get some kind of feedback from the world that you're interacting with, and you don't take that feedback as an attack or as a criticism so much as you take it as information. How can I read this information in a way that gives me more power in the situation? I'll give you an example. So I did a retreat for this company, and they a couple weeks ago, and I've been getting feedback from them. And there was one moment where there was an interchange between two of the people in the company that was difficult. And the feedback that I got was that I didn't handle that as well as it should have been. Like I should have modulated or moderated that conversation. And I felt like, oh yeah, maybe there's something to it. Maybe I should have moderated that conversation so it didn't, because it got a little bit funny. Like they were really nice to each other, but they said some kind of nasty things underneath the, how people do that. Like, I hear what you're saying, but you do this. And so I had to kind of take that and say, should I have done it differently? Should I have done it better? And I kind of turned it over in my mind. And then I came around to, yeah, maybe I could have done it a little bit differently. But it's complicated and I learned something. Right. And that's much healthier than saying, oh my God, they're not happy with me, or I messed up or whatever. That's the trick, right? Is to do that. And so like for Emily, what I would say is, um, keep checking in with, does this feel right to me? Does this feel like the main thing is with agency, am I doing something and getting feedback from the world back to me? And what can I do with that feedback that is not about destroying me, but is about supporting myself and adding information for me to kind of layer on my personality? How can I work with that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like that's the perfect foundation for building confidence because you can kind of separate the wheat from the chaff a little bit. Those things that you feel are you, or are you going through that process of, how could I do this differently, or how maybe I look at this from a different perspective. There are going to be some things that maybe you throw away, maybe you could do better, maybe aren't really aligned with you. But there's going to be some things that are aligned with you too. And
Yeah.
the more practice you have with those, and the more you think through those, the more confidence you'll take into the next situation because you have a little bit more solid ground to stand on. And you've created more solid ground for yourself, knowing what's more in alignment with you, and you've also discarded less solid ground so you don't step on it again.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's that thing about values. So values, and I think we've talked about this before. We just like put up a list of values. I value honesty, I value kindness, I value love, I value beauty, I value honesty. I don't know, all those things. And once you start to build that sense of what you value, that becomes the things you stand on. If you truly, really, really believe in your values, and the way that people figure out their values is you just get a list, and we'll put a list in the link, and then you just start circling things that really like, oh yeah, that I feel that in my heart, like that's really important to me. Being kind, peace is really important to me, or power, or whatever it is. And then you start, you circle 20, and then you cross out 15, and you come up with your top 5 values. And they can change during life, but usually they're pretty solid. Now you've got something to stand on. So I always say, like, give me an example of something that you've done that you were really scared to do, but you did it anyway, and you feel like is connected to like the real Tyler, that was scary at the time, or maybe it's still scary to do.
If I'm being honest, I'm in a place where I am scared now. And I think I wouldn't say I tried to mask it, but I think I cope with it a lot better. I think, you know what? And I don't want this to sound sappy, but I think I've always had a very scared part of myself. And I think, from a kid to young adulthood to where I am now, it's always like this sense of like, is this a dead end, or is this going to work? Is this going to, it kind of like Emily, like, am I going to make it? Like, am I going to make it? And if I do make it, will it be in a way that I can tolerate?
Hmm.
Um, and I think every day that kind of eats at me a little bit. But I used to distract myself from it, and I used to beat myself up for it. Whereas now, I guess I just try to just accept it.
You're scared that you're not going to make it, being like in business or in your marriage or being a father or all of the above, or
So I have like a couple of things that are really important to me. I have my marriage and my role as a father, my business, and I guess my own personal development too. I get really scared that it sounds irrational when I say it out loud, but like I'll lose it.
Mhm.
Like I'll either lose it or something will happen, it's not even like a very rational fear. I think just the essence of having something in your life worth having, or even if that something is like a dream or a goal, it's always accompanied by this fear of not achieving it, or losing it.
Honestly, I have the same fears. I don't think they ever really go away because, you know, you can think you're doing okay. If your eyes are open and you see someone, living with the shopping cart on your corner, or you see somebody going through hell in a war, or you see children starving somewhere, you have to be able to say, why not me? Am I on a trajectory where that could happen to me? And I think that's part of being human and being part of the human race. And how does that connect to, the fear that Emily might have that, well, I'm not going to get a scholarship like everybody else, or I'm not going to, be a high achiever like everyone else. I think it's the same. It's the same thing. It comes from the same thing, which is this deep fear that somehow not only do the things that we want not come to us, won't come to us, or that the things we have, we will lose. I mean, isn't that what it means to kind of be a human being, to be thinking about those things and worried about those things? Can you ever get away from it? I haven't figured out how, and I don't know that it's fruitful to ignore that.
There's a certain, to me, there's a certain sense of reality to that thought.
Sure.
For Emily, something that it kind of made me think of when she was talking about the scholarships and the internships, and something that's kind of helped ease my mind a little bit is circumstance, like understanding your own life's context, so you don't feel like you're missing out or you don't have access to the same things that somebody else has, even though that, like, that one, that's a reality. But two, that reality also creates a reality where you have access to things that those people don't have. Like, and not in a competitive way, more like in a way like they have certain strengths and attributes and a certain set of circumstances that allowed them to be in the position that they're in, whether that was because of them or, something else. Like they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know, or your access to information. And then that doesn't mean that you don't have the right connections, or you don't have the right networks, or you don't have the right information. It's just that you have a different set. And it's like you have a different hand to play. And instead of worrying about what somebody else's hand consists of and how they're playing it, I always try to focus on how can I play my hand the best to get the best results.
Yeah, I love that. It's, it's about looking at your assets. So I would say to Emily, I mean, she mentioned that she has her family and her small group of friends. That's an asset. And that's interestingly enough, when I go there to, well, what if I fail? What if I fail? I always come around to, there are people that will be there to catch me. It may not be fun to ask, someone for money, or can you help me out with this job or whatever. But they will be there. And if you don't feel that in your life, that's more important than getting the scholarship, getting the internship, is to build up that sense of relationships and belonging somewhere, which are two of the building blocks that we talk about. Having somebody that's going to be there to catch you when you fall, mom and dad, siblings, best friends, having a lot of those kind of people around. That is the true measure of success, because then you will never fail. You will always have somebody there to help you out in the times when you need it. And that internship, that scholarship, uh, it's a fake representation of the real thing, is how I think of it. And the real thing is having those loving connections.
That kind of just sparks me into, like, what sort of lifestyle or what type of life do you really want? And not to say if you get a scholarship or an internship, like, your life has to be one specific thing, or if you get a job, like, this is your life, but you really have an opportunity to create the life that you want. And especially at, to be blunt, at 19, like, not everything's going to fall on your lap. My dad always, oh, goodness. I find myself being more and more like him as I get older. and, and when my wife catches it, it gets kind of embarrassing. But he told me this thing, and I do not like to hear it. So prepare your ears if you're listening, because it doesn't sound good. But I feel like it's true. Like, sometimes you just have to eat shit. And I know, like, the visual of it is horrible, but what he means is you're not gonna like the opportunities that you get in the first, like, all the time. You're not gonna like the fact that maybe you have to start somewhere lower than you might like to, or that you might have to talk to people you might not like to, or bring something out of yourself that you might not like to, that's uncomfortable. But if those are your opportunities at the moment, then you can either take them or not.
Agree. That's a tough pill to swallow. You want to turn it into a pill. But it's true. And the thing is you don't know what opportunity might be packaged in that terrible job that you have, or the schooling that you have to go through and how hard it is, or having to live it, like we talked about with Jackie last week, having to live at home and being treated like a child who has to do a bunch of stuff for her parents, as opposed to an adult who's going to college and figuring out her own life. And so there's going to be a lot of roadblocks. And can you find, and this is that thing about that agency again, that sense of confidence. Can you kind of mentally climb on top of everything and look down and say, what can I make of this? I have my family here that's demanding stuff. I have my friends that I don't get to see enough of. I have all of these kind of things that I want to have in my future, and I have no idea how I'm going to get there. And we have to talk about the fact that this is a very difficult time to also be figuring out your future. We've got a weird economy. We've got a crazy political moment happening. We have, the robotics and AI, and, a complete shift in how we do everything coming up. And where's your role in that? And Emily mentioned that she's doing graphic design. Graphic design is one of those things where, I mean, they're advertising, you can just give an idea to, your AI, and it will not only write the book, but it will design it for you and package it up and mail it out for you with your little agent. And is that something that, people want to accept at 19 years old, that your worth has now been taken over by a machine?
This is purely speculative, but I think to me, I can start to see it. The economy is getting split. And so for me, it's scary, having just started a family a couple of years ago. But I could also imagine how scary it might be for someone who's just like figuring out what they want their career to be, or just getting into their career. Like, what worked 5 years ago might not work right now. And it's changing
Daily.
Yes. And so graphic design, like, yeah, like, there's a very easy case to be made that your job's going to get taken by AI very quickly, or that it's taken right now. But I would look at it like maybe there's a certain economy for graphic design, and AI has now taken a portion of that economy. It's not going to, there's always going to be people that want it done more efficiently, quicker, cheaper, and they're going to go with AI. But there's also going to be a set of people in this economy that want it a bit slower. They want it a bit more human. They might want the little mistakes that only a human would make. They want that consultation call where you're talking and the ideas are flowing and it's fun. They want to be able to show their clients that, hey, we had a human make this, is very tied to us. It wasn't just a robot that made it. Emily's shyness, it might seem like a weakness when everybody's being forward and getting their internships and getting their scholarships, and they're in the limelight. But there's another case to be made that shyness, it seems like she's very intuitive. It seems like she's very compassionate. It seems like being Emily's friend would be really nice. It seems, I don't know, but just listening to her, it seems like she probably gets along with her family. And those are the same exact qualities that can be very successful in this economy. When you're not just treating people like robots or AI or just like clients, but you're treating them like friends, and you're treating them like family, and you know them, and you know their needs, and you can provide them something that they really like. And graphic design is a really personal craft. And so you can think about all the fear, you can think about the economy crumbling or whatever, or you can really focus on those weaknesses that actually have strengths in them, and look at them as strengths instead of weaknesses. And that's kind of where I get back into, like, sometimes you have to eat shit. I am shy. I am intuitive. I do like to talk to people. I tend to, I think I can have conversations where I bring out the best in people and they bring out the best in me. And so that whatever we're doing in life can be the best result possible. And I think that's very similar to what you can do. You can do that with coaching. You can do that with graphic design. You can do that with anything. And I know I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent here, but there's a plus and a minus to both.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is really important. Go ahead and be who you are. If you are shy, understand that, yeah, that may cut you off from opportunities. If it's an opportunity that your values say, I really, really want to do this, you will overcome your shyness to do it. and you will learn the hard way, that you're going to have to eat shit in order to get there. I'm going to have to push myself to go to that thing and do the public speaking, or go to that party, or schmooze with this person or this group of people, whatever it is. You're going to have to, at every moment, decide, how does this align with my values? And sometimes you don't need to do that. You don't, just because everybody else is going out and getting a bunch of, internships, for example, at a bunch of different places and meet and schmoozing with people. That's them. Is that who you are? So I have a challenge for people to start to think about in terms of identity. And I would say this: sit down at some point and think about the things that you're really interested in, and think about how the way in which you're interested in these things and the way in which you do those things is different and better than the way that AI or a robot could do it. Because I think that's going to be the challenge. That's the fight, right? Is to be able to go as a graphic designer and say, you can get somebody, you can get a AI to produce your stuff in 5 seconds or less, but you're not going to get the perspective that I have as a human being, the perspective that I have as somebody who's young, the perspective I have in terms of my own aesthetic and that what goes on in my mind, and this ability to conjure up things that have never been. My ability to have relationships with people, to understand how people interact with each other. Those are intrinsic human values. And I think there's a charm and loveliness about being shy, about being inwardly focused, because a lot of shy people spend a lot of time thinking deeply about things. And that's, you're not going to get deep thought. You can call it deep think or whatever for your AI, but you're not really getting deep thought. You are getting regurgitation of humanity's thoughts, at least with the large language model. And we haven't gotten to to general intelligence yet. And general intelligence, who knows what that package is going to be, but it's not going to be you as a human. With your own human perspective. And I feel really strongly about this, that, a lot of people will talk about AI and like, oh, I don't use it, I don't like it. You better learn it so you can stay on top of it. Don't ever I'm not saying use it and love it and all that, but do not ignore it. Understand who your enemy is kind of like how I'm thinking about it. And I use AI. I think of it as a friend because it helps me, but I see the extreme dangers inherent in it. So let's say what we can say to Emily. So number one, Emily, I think, I would say, do you need to you know what? I don't want to do that. I don't want to give her that kind of wrap up. I think life is complicated, and she just seems like a lovely person. And I would say, if anything, why do you need to change? Why not just continue to be who you are and continue to explore things? If they're really meaningful to you, you will break out of your shell to do it. And if it doesn't feel meaningful, that's okay. I don't know. Isn't it just okay to be who you are?
I think we have this when I say we, I feel like it's
Universal.
maybe not universal, and not with everybody, but we have a tendency to think of settling as something bad, or like acceptance as something bad. And maybe this is more of like an American sort of thing. Like, we always have to be striving and innovating and individualizing and being unique. You know, maybe that's a path for some people, but I think if you can be really honest about what you want, you've won.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It doesn't really matter what somebody else is doing, or how you kind of contrast where you are to somebody else, as long as you have a general contentness about what you're doing and who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Find joy. Follow your joy where it leads you. And here's one other thing that I think is a really interesting exercise you can kind of do, a little mental exercise, and that is to say, if I were to get the success that I want, what would I do with it? Why do I want it? And you might be surprised that really what you want Like for me personally, it's like I want to test myself. I want to see what I can do in this world, in this life that I have, how far I can go, what I can do with the tools that I've been given. And so that's one thing. But in the end, why do I want success? Because I want to do something valuable in the world. And in terms of money, I want to be able to live beautifully, comfortably. But mostly I want to be able to give that comfort and beauty to other people. I want to be able to share what I have. We've had this conversation where I think it's like I want to live in a sustainable, pretty farm, with my animals and be able to have my friends come and live in an in-law apartment that, little in-law in ADU house in the backyard, or my mom and my brothers if they ever need to, or anybody that needs a place to stay. Um, so ultimately it's like, if you kind of really think about what it is that means success for you, it might be that you end up right where you are with loving friends and family and just having more resources to give to them.
Can I give a quick example off of that?
Yeah.
So, like, my wife and I have been working on our house for like 4 years since we moved in. It was the bones were good, the structure. There was nothing structurally wrong with this house, but it was outdated. That carpet, wood
Mhm.
paneling, like the bathroom was you wouldn't even want to look at it. And so my wife, the first thing that my wife wanted to do was the kitchen. And so everything, like almost everything kind of needed to be redone. But over the last 4 years, we at first we got quoted, like 30, 40,000 to redo the kitchen. It's
Mm.
not a big kitchen. Like it's not a big kitchen. Lately this year we did a couple of things. We replaced the linoleum countertops. And I know, Emily, like you're 19, maybe you're not thinking about countertops and kitchens and everything just yet,
You
but
will
trust me, you
someday.
will. But this is going to tie into where she's at. And so we replaced the linoleum countertops. We didn't go with the guy that quoted us the 30,000. We went with this guy that my wife has known for, I don't know, like since she was a kid. He's maybe like he has to be at least 70 right now, but he just kind of bebops around town in his truck and just does odd jobs. And like we love when he comes over because he's really funny. We got these butcher block countertops, and so
Love butcher block.
a couple $100 instead of a couple of thousand. And then we just did the backsplash for it because he did the countertops, but he didn't do anything the backsplash. So there was a gap between the counter and the wall. But finally, the other day, we went to the thrift store and we found 4 packs of tiles for $7 each.
Cool.
Online, they were $80. We found the tile cutter at the thrift store. Altogether, it was like $150 instead of, 1,000, 2,000 to have somebody else install it. We wanted a nice kitchen. We want to be able to enjoy our home. Money was not falling in our laps at the moment. And so
Mhm.
we just had to figure out a way to make it work and then also be patient until it works. And for Emily, I know I'm getting off on this whole DIY thing, but
I want to see
what
pictures of your kitchen.
I'll send it. But my point is, you can have exactly what you want. You can. There's this saying: you can tell the universe what you want, but you can't tell the universe how you're going to get it.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And that's my whole point. I know that was a
Yeah.
long story.
No, that's a great story. That is exactly right. And along the way, you probably had more fun. You got to kind of get creative. You learned how to do tiling. Tyler is a Tyler, I guess. Emily, continue to follow the things that give you pleasure and happiness and joy in life, and don't compare yourself to other people because you don't, like you said, you don't know what they're going through. um, and and really check in with yourself. What is it that you really, really, really want? And if you keep doing that, you're going to be okay. It's going to feel weird. You're going to go off in different weird, tangents and, go off the beaten path maybe, but that's okay.
And you told me something last week. I don't exactly remember how you phrased it. I think it was like you have to create that space to figure out who you are.
Mhm. Yeah, you have to spend time. Well, I'll put this up here on the screen. This is the 4 steps that you need to do in order to feel like you have control or management of your nervous system, because your nervous system is going to go all wacky. And especially like, oh, you're going to sit in class and you're going to see someone is super successful, they're getting the best grades, and you're going to then go talk to your friend who's going to tell you they've got like, all of these great internships and everyone's giving them money and telling them they're really wonderful and hiring them. And you're going to feel feelings are going to come up. That's how we are, right? And those feelings come up out of fear. I'm going to lose out. Everybody else is going to be ahead. I'm going to be stuck back here without this thing. So there's 4 steps. 1, breathe. Nice deep breath. Slowly out. Why do you do that? Because it tells your brain's telling your body, let me just calm myself down. My brain's going to get a hold of my body and start to relax it. And then you need to move your body. You need to stretch. You need to get those feelings out because our emotions are contained in our bodies. And if you don't move your body, they get stuck. Move your body, release all that out. Go for a run, go for a walk, go play basketball, go, if you can't do anything and you're just sitting in your chair, just tighten up all of your muscles and then release them. The next thing you need to do is talk to yourself every time you feel bad. When you start noticing you're not feeling right, you got to talk to yourself. You got to be the kindest best friend that you have inside your own head. It is about you being consciously aware that your brain will just go off and say all kinds of mean shit to you, and you've got to stop it. And then the final thing is take some time every day. It can be like 3 minutes, it can be 5 minutes to just be quiet. Notice your breath, notice the thoughts that come in, because remember the thoughts will come in and out of your head and they'll say all kinds of mean shit. And you got to learn how to let them go. Do those 4 things and start to get ahead of your emotions. It's not that you shouldn't feel your emotions. There's a difference between emotions that you are aware of and you understand them and you heal from them versus your nervous system going off in alarms all the time because you're afraid of, oh my God, this is going to happen. And then you go into fight or flight and all the other nervous system reactions. So yes. Sorry, that was a long explanation, but I think it's that 4 steps that really it's helped me immensely to once I figure that out. And it's science. This is all based on our neurobiological responses to stress.
For me, when I do that, it's like I go from, especially if I can be consistent, I go from kind of just going throughout the day and I'm almost like on this like autopilot. Like I'm there, I'm witnessing what I'm doing, but it's just like it's survival. I guess survival mode is the cliche term.
Yeah.
But when I take the time to kind of slow down and breathe and move, exercise, go through it, talk to myself, meditate, create that space. It's like I have like I go through the day almost like in this bubble, almost like with like this force field around me where like things are coming at me and I'm choosing how I'm going to actually respond or not respond to them.
That's a good feeling.
Good luck, Emily.
Yeah, good luck, Emily. We're rooting for you.